Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening if you are on Pacific time. Welcome once again to Tuesday Talks and Tips. Today is episode 6. Where's my hands? Episode 6. This is focus on base camp tips for president, vice president, and secretary. Our regular attendees will recognize today's presenter because this will be her third time with us. She was part of the panel on episode 1 when we talked about starting your Toastmasters year right. And then she did episode 2, which was integrating pathways into your meetings. And how do we say it? Due to insistent popular demand, we are bringing her back today to do base camp tips for president, vice president, and secretary. And chances are there might be a part 2 of this session because there's just so much information that Lori wants to share, and I'm sure you want her to share with you. Lori is the District 62 Lead Pathways Guide, and she has done a fabulous job in her district of helping people to get started on pathways. And speaking of getting started, we want to get started as soon as possible. However, a few reminders. First of all, this session is being recorded. So if you do not wish to have your face appearing in the recording, which will be shared on the Pathways Discussion Forum as well as in other Facebook groups, then please leave your camera off. Second, in the interest of focus and concentration and time, of course, we would request everybody to please mute yourselves until Lori says, okay, time for questions, and then you can unmute yourself. Or in the meantime, you can type your questions on the chat box. If you don't know where the chat box is, look down, bring your cursor down to the lower part of your screen, and you will see the word chat. You click on that, and on the right side of your screen, you will see something like a box where you could type your question. So at this point, I'm very excited to present and welcome Lori Haynes. Over to you, Lori.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm glad to be here again tonight to talk about base camp tips for president, VPE, and secretary. Michelle gave me a kind of a vague theme, so I went with it, and we're going to talk about some things before we actually go to base camp. But first, in case you hadn't seen it, there is a new way that you can access base camp. Go to toastmasters.org, just like you're used to, and then click on the login screen up here. Log in, and usually you'll use your email address and put your password in. If it's a new member and they don't have a password yet, they can click the link for the forget password and they'll get them all set up. Something that's important to keep in mind as people are logging in for the first time, they need to put in their email address that's on their membership form. We all have different email addresses, right? We have work email address and personal email address, and sometimes people forget which one they actually write on the application. And they might get frustrated trying to log in with their work email address, for example, but maybe they gave you their personal one on the application. It's really important to make sure to remind them to log in with the email address that they signed up with. And of course, that means it's important for us to verify the email address so we're putting it in right. People can always change the email address in their profile if they want to. Then once you log in, it says welcome, whatever your name is. And that is where your Toastmasters profile is. If you click on welcome your name, they've added a new interface where you can log into Pathways. And there's several screens here that you see. There's several colorful boxes. I want to talk about first this first one on the right, because that's something that deserves more talking about because it's a great source of material about Toastmasters, particularly for your new members, and that's the Navigator. It's your guide to Toastmasters about meetings, meeting roles, officer roles, contests, pathways, and when your members click there, there's an interactive navigator that talks about different areas of Toastmasters. They can also print it out as a PDF if they want. Make sure that you're having your new members go through this so that they get the information that's in here. It's almost a Toastmaster manual, so to speak. And then we go back to our profile, and this middle box is where you can select your path. All members get one free path. There is a $25 additional charge if you do select the printed materials path. And most of you on the line probably have already selected one or more paths. This is where your new members go to choose a path. And it's also where officers can go to select a printed materials path for any of the club members. Now, notice I said officers, not just base camp managers. Any officer in a club has the option here to choose a path for another member. If you're in multiple clubs, select the club that you want to select a path for one of the members in that club. I'm in 3 clubs, but only 2 of my clubs show because I'm not an officer in the 3rd club. Select the club, click choose a path, click choose, and then you'll be taken to this page where you can select your member of your club down at the bottom. Now keep in mind, you can only choose printed material paths. You can't choose online paths for any of your members. You can only choose the online path for yourself. And when selecting a printed materials path for your member, the payment of the $25 additional fee for that first free path is required when you do the selection. You may choose to have the member give you a check, or maybe they have their credit card there and you have them put in their credit card number when you do the selection. If they don't want to do that, they can call Toastmasters International directly to pay for the path and then get it sent to them at their home. Now, keep in mind there are only a few paths, or less than half, that are available via printed materials. And these are the paths. And of these paths, only 2 of them, Leadership Development and Presentation Mastery, are available in languages other than English. Otherwise, these other paths in printed materials are only available in English. We're back to the profile, and you might think we're finally going to go to base camp, but not quite yet. We're going to look at pathways information. This used to be the way that we got to pathways, by going to toastmasters.org and clicking on pathways. And then we have different options here. And this is still here, but they do keep changing what they list here. So that could change even from what you see. If you have club members who aren't quite sure which path that they want to select, you can send them here so that they can read about the different path and pathways information. There's a Welcome to Pathways section that will give information about the paths and about pathways. A section on paths and projects, so they can read the description and the projects about each path. Some videos on pathways, some FAQs about pathways. besides your members who aren't quite sure which path they want, another group of people that it could be useful to send them to this section are members who are joining, but their membership won't start until the following month. Maybe they came to the third Wednesday of the month, and your next meeting isn't until the first Wednesday of the following month, and that's when their membership will start. Those people can't get a path yet because their payment isn't in the system yet. They're not an official member, but you want them to start reading and getting information about pathways. So send them to the website so that they can read about pathways. And then you can even, in this section, if you go to the sample your first project, they can open up the icebreaker and start working on their very first speech as a Toastmaster. Click Break the Ice, choose the language that you want to read the icebreaker in, and then it opens up just like it does in Pathways. And they can view all of the material, the videos, they can access that worksheet, that speech organization worksheet, the evaluation resource. They're able to view and navigate through this project exactly as they will in Pathways. Now, I know that some clubs print out the PDF of this and give it to new members instead. I always recommend sending them here because then they get their first exposure to how the projects work in Pathways, and they start to become familiar with how to navigate it and where everything is. That might make it a little easier for them once they are able to choose their path and get going in their path. But make sure that you give them the option so that they can start working on their first speech. Now, someone had a question in the chat about accessible materials, and I did want to cover that as well. And that's if you're back to toastmasters.org and click Pathways, there's accessible materials here. And those are materials, paths that are available for those who are blind or rely on assistive technology. If someone uses a screen reader to access the internet, they can get their path in accessible materials. And someone asked in the chat whether there was an additional charge for that. My understanding is that it is free. There's no extra charge to get the accessible materials. You would need to either contact Toastmasters to get that, or what they've done is they have added a little checkbox on the membership form where people can indicate that they would prefer accessible materials. If someone checks that and then they select a path, as long as the club member has noted that when they put in the membership, the new members' information, they'll automatically get an accessible path. That means that if you're putting in that membership form and someone has checked that, maybe make sure that they meant to check it. They might think that it means something else. So you want to make sure that they understand what that means. If someone gets an accessible path by mistake, they can return it and exchange it for an online path or the other path, but they need to do that within 30 days of having received the path. Now on this page, I'm only showing part of a screenshot. You're able to scroll down and there are FAQs that give more details about the accessible materials. Make sure and take a look at that so that you've got all of the information. We're back to our profile. We've looked at the navigator, choose a new path. We've looked at some of the information under the pathway section. And now, finally, we're going to look at Basecamp Manager. But first, I'm going to open it up if there's some questions from what I've covered so far. I thought I had my question slide, but I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions.
You know, I did, yes, Lori, I didn't notice at first how you got to those things. You said there's like a shortcut, and you had those 3 boxes that came up there, and you talked about them, you know, about accessible materials and navigator. But okay,
Sure.
you're going to show me?
Yeah, I'll show you. You go to toastmasters.org. You're at toastmasters.org, and then you click on Pathways. To get to these boxes,
Yeah, that's it.
to
Yeah.
get to these boxes, go to toastmasters.org, log in. All right, let me go back a little more. Here. So click the login up here where you log in. And then once you log in, it'll say welcome. Well, yours will say welcome, Mary. And then when you click on welcome, Mary, now I'm only showing a partial screenshot. There's other stuff down here.
Oh, okay.
All of your officer roles, all your memberships, all your awards. I've just copied this top part that shows how you can get to Pathways through these colorful boxes now.
Is that what's called the navigator? Yeah, I see that on top.
Yeah, the navigator is over here on the right.
Okay.
The nice blue one, and I always make sure when I'm sitting down with a new member, that's one of the first things I show them, because that gives them information they can read on their own about the club and how Toastmasters works. And I want to make sure that they know that that's important and that they should take a look at that. Any other questions? I hope this has been helpful. I know we haven't got to base camp yet.
Oh, Lori, I'm finding this helpful personally. So I'm hoping that I'm a barometer for others, but I'm finding this darn helpful. So thank you.
You're welcome. Let me get back to where we stopped. All right, now we're ready to jump in to the Base Camp Manager section. We're back here with our colorful boxes. It still says welcome, Lori. And over here, this dark blue square is how we can go to Base Camp. Now, since our webinar tonight is focused on Base Camp Manager roles, we're going to go to the Base Camp Manager section. If you're in one club and you're not a Base Camp Manager, you won't have an option to go to the Base Camp Manager section, just like I don't have here, because I'm not an officer, any officer, let alone a Base Camp Manager in this club. But if I select the club and change it to a club where I am a Base Camp Manager, now you see I have the option. It'll let me go back. So I don't have the option for Base Camp. Now I do, because I've changed clubs. And then I'm going to click log in as Base Camp Manager. If I don't check mark, I just change clubs and I click go, I'll go into normal Base Camp. And that's what I would do if I want to work with my path. But I'm going to check log in as Base Camp Manager, club that I want to work with, and then click go. And this is the home page for Base Camp Manager. It kind of looks similar to regular Base Camp because you've got some blue tiles. In Base Camp Manager, there's only 3 blue tiles instead of 5. This blue tile, blue tile over on the right has tutorials that you can view, get more information about your role as a Base Camp Manager. And they have those tutorials grouped by subject area. And I'm not going to go through them tonight. You can explore them and view the short tutorials. We're back at our home page. And you're probably thinking, I'm going to go to the reports or pending requests. But I want to show you some other things that some people may not be familiar with in the Base Camp Manager section. It's our home page, and notice there's a search up here. In the search, you can search for a tutorial, you can search for a video, but you can also search and find members. So here I'm at the home page. I've started typing my name. And you can see there's my name with my little black cat, Senja. As I start typing, if there's a person with that name or part of a name, it'll pop up here. Sometimes you can click there to select that person. Now, I say sometimes because I've noticed it doesn't always work to click there, which can be a little frustrating. But what you can do as you type the name is you can press enter after you've typed all or part of it, take you to a search screen. Result, I just typed in Lori, and I can click on my name to the profile. Now, even though I've searched for myself, when I'm logged in as Basecamp manager, it doesn't know that it's me that's logged in. So if you log in as Basecamp manager, it just knows that a Basecamp manager has logged in. Only one Basecamp manager can be logged in at one time. So if you're logged in and you're the VPE and the president decides to log in as Basecamp manager, guess what? You're going to get booted out. But that's okay. You can just log in again and boot the president out, right? But here's a profile of me. And if I had typed anything in the summary, you would see it. And if you can see that I put some interests here. You can also see the email address of your members here. Now, I've hidden my email address, but normally it would show here. And you're able to see my Basecamp profile. One important thing to note, even though I'm logged in the Basecamp Manager section, if I were to log in the regular Basecamp, all members can see each other's profile in that section as well. So all of your members can see whatever summary or interest that each other has entered in their Basecamp profile, as well as their email address. And then if you scroll down on this screen, there's more information about the member. You can see when they started with Toastmasters. It says credentials. Now it's only going to show my latest Pathways awards. It's not showing my traditional education awards here. I haven't lost them. They're still in my profile, but they won't show here in Basecamp. Now, once someone gets a DTM, a Distinguished Toastmaster award, that will stay here forever. You can tell I haven't completed the Pathways Mentor program yet. And you can see I've only entered in one of the meeting roles. The member themselves have to enter in the role. If they want a date to show here, the Basecamp managers cannot enter that in for the members. I know that's a question that comes up a lot. It's not required that the members put in dates for these, but it can be helpful because before going on from level 3 and progressing to level 4, a member has to have completed being a topics master, a Toastmaster, and a speech evaluator. Notice other meeting roles are showing here. They're not required to go from level 3 to 4, but they just put them here in case people wanted to track them. And since we're in Basecamp Manager, I'm not going to cover how to enter those in there tonight. This is my Basecamp profile. And as you see, you can add a picture there if you want. Now I just scrolled up and I'm still back at the Basecamp profile. You have options up here where you can get to different sections of a member's Basecamp profile. The one area that a Basecamp manager can get to that a regular member cannot in the regular Basecamp section is the transcript area. And that's where, of course, our paths live. So we're going to take a look at member transcript. I'm going to pause in case anyone had a question on what I've gone over so far in Basecamp Manager.
Well, Lori, not a question, but just a quick comment. I wasn't aware that you could only have one Basecamp manager at one time. But now that you say it, I realize that's what happened one time when we were thinking, okay, let's take a look at Basecamp. So two of us went in, and then one, I think I was the one who got bumped off. But that is interesting. I was not aware of that. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, we'll move on to looking at the member transcript. I'm back here at my Basecamp profile, except I've clicked on transcript. And when you click on transcript, you'll see whatever is in the person's transcript. And this is my transcript. I'm going to advance the screen so you see more of the transcript. And you can see I was a pathways guide, and it was almost like a path. We had our own separate tasks. And then I've got two paths here. And you can see that my team collaboration, I have it, but it's still registered. I haven't done anything with it. My visionary communication path is in progress. So you know I've at least started it. And you can see I've been looking at the storytelling project, a couple of videos. People can have other things other than their paths if they've been looking at tutorials or project descriptions or different resources. There's also the navigator here. So it's another option for people to access the navigator. These are the items in my transcript. Now, if I click on a path name, this is a screen that you'll see. Ooh, doesn't this look pretty? All right, maybe not so pretty. But I'm showing you this even though you may not really use it, because a lot of people stumble on this view and they don't understand what it is, and they get frustrated because they think they're supposed to do something here. All this is it's called the training details, and it's just a by item listing of all the projects. And you can see nothing's been done here. This is my team collaboration view training details, where you can see I haven't done squat. But it doesn't really tell you anything other than they haven't done anything. There's nothing you can do here. There's nothing special about it. I just wanted you to see it so you know you don't have to be scared of it. You don't need to do anything here. For another view, here's where I blew up just a portion of my visionary communication one. Oh no, this is still my team collaboration because I haven't done anything. Just so you can read it a little better. All the projects, and I've only snipped levels 1 through part of 3. And now if you look at my visionary communication, you can see, oh, I've completed these projects, I've completed these. Maybe one use for it is you can see at a glance how far the member has come or what projects that they've completed in one screen, and you can see which of the electives that I've looked at, because if I've looked at them, it says in progress. So you can see I've looked at several of the electives. Again, you may not really need to use this, but I want to make sure that when you see it, you're not scared, you understand what it's telling you. Now, you see these little icons at the right of each of these lines. If you click on that, this is what you'll see. It's a project training details. And it will actually tell you down here when the person last opened up that project, how many times they've opened up the project, how long the project has been open. Now you're looking at this, and perhaps you're thinking, wow, Lori must be the slowest reader on earth. She spent 13 hours and 27 minutes looking at the icebreaker. But of course, I'm pretty sure I wasn't reading it that whole time. I take lots of screenshots, and I often bring my laptop to meetings and open that up to help people. Again, there's minimal value here, but it's important to know what it is if you do come across it, or if one of your club member says, I got some weird screen with all the projects. Was I supposed to do something? That way you can understand what they were looking at. Now, if you go, I'm going to go back here. If you click on this icon down here, you can see what date that project was marked completed. I don't know if you'd ever need to know that, but if you really, really wanted to know, you could. Of course, that doesn't mean that's when the speech was done, does it? It only means that's when that particular project was marked complete in Basecamp. So again, there may be not a lot of value to that. I'm back to my transcript. Now, a minute ago, I clicked on the name of the path, and that's when we got that training details. But this time, I'm going to click on the Open Curriculum button. And now, there's my path. That's what we want to look for, right? Here's my team collaboration path. And you see I haven't done anything with it yet. This is the overview. You can click on a level to look at any of the levels. If I click on level 1, as I've done here, you can see I haven't even started the icebreaker in this path yet. Don't worry, I'm sure I will soon. Notice though, and this is curious, as a Basecamp manager, I could activate that icebreaker. I don't know why a Basecamp manager would want to activate someone's project. It won't let me launch it, even if I activate it as a Basecamp manager. And I'm not sure you'd ever want to activate a project for someone, but it's interesting that there is the option. I'm back at my transcript. Now we'll look at my visionary communication path. And you can see I'm a lot further along with this path. I've completed levels 1 and 2, and I'm in level 3. Now if I click on level 1, now I'm seeing that these projects have been completed and the level has been completed. If I click on the view training details for any project, we get that screen back. Remember that? Where we can see how many times someone has read it and when they last accessed it. Again, probably not that helpful, but that's what it is if you come across it. Back to my project, and notice there's an option to view the certificate. This is where you can come into a member's path, print out that certificate showing that they completed the level, and present it to them in a club meeting to recognize their achievement. The member also has access to print out the certificate, but I think it's a nice thing if the officer does it and then give it to them in a meeting. It's a nice recognition. If you click View Certificate, it opens up in a small window and you can print it off. Or you could email it if you wanted to email it. Now I'm looking at level 2 in my visionary communication. It's all done. There's the View Certificate. I'm in level 3. Nothing's done yet. You could look at the electives if you wanted to see which electives I'd activated. And you can tell the ones I've activated because it says View Training Details instead of Activate. And it also says In Progress under the elective name. And maybe you look at this and you go, oh, she's working on that one. And you might want to come and ask me, what's that project about? Have you done any speeches for it? Was it fun? And it can help you get some information about these projects if you're not to that stage yet. All right, we're back to the Basecamp Manager homepage. We just looked at a lot with that transcript. So I'm going to pause and see if anyone has any questions on that section. Uh-oh, did I put you all to sleep?
No, I think the feeling is, wow, was base camp that cool? Because, I mean, Lori, I've gone through several paths and completed several paths, and I'm a base camp manager. But honestly, my base camp is usually I just approve the levels. I haven't gone exploring like you have. Very impressive information. Thank you. I think Mary has unmuted herself. I don't know. Mary, do you have a question?
Not really a question, but an observation. I just feel like you almost have to get a PhD to run these camps. And oh, base camp manager. You have to be a president, vice president, and or secretary?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
just those three. Of course, the VPE has the bulk of the role, right? Because of education. But even as president, I like to get in here when I'm president because then I can see where all the members are at, see who has picked a new path, and to see what progress they're making. And I can help the base camp manager. And even if you think, well, I'm just a secretary, I don't need to do anything, the more you learn, someday you might be the VPE or the president. Maybe even the next year, you never know. And
Right,
so
right.
the more you can learn, it'll be helpful. And you can help out your VPE and president as well.
And speaking of that, we have a question from Rashmi. I know she's not a BCM yet, but I think she's a VPPR this
Right.
year, and she has a question.
Yeah, hello, ma'am. My question is the base camp manager can assess every detail of every member's pathways?
Every detail as far as,
Progress of pathways he can check, he or she can check,
yes, yes.
or he, okay. And one more question, ma'am. As a member, how many paths I can activate all together at the same time?
I think you could have 11 paths,
Oh,
right?
okay. All of them we can activate.
But you
Now,
have to pay. You have to pay for all of them except the first one.
Yeah, I know that. I know that we have to pay $20 for each and every. But a single time, it's my wish. I want to activate 3 and 4 and 5, whatever I can.
Good
yeah,
job.
go for it. Go.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
You might need a big file for all your evaluation forms, though, right?
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, Lori, I just wanted to read what Manuel said. He says, "Thank you. You are doing a very good job."
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And I know I'm kind of going deep into a section you might not ever go into, but I've seen Facebook posts where I can tell people have ended up on some of these pages and they weren't sure what it was or what they needed to do. So that's why I wanted to cover them tonight.
And Lori, you have a fan club. Somebody from Trio District 9 says these webinars are so fabulous.
Oh, well, thank you.
And Roy has his hand raised. Roy, go ahead. Do you know how to unmute yourself? Let me find Roy.
My question was, after the person that's in the database manager position has approved the path so that the original person can now move on to level 2 or level 3, whatever they are, they still have to go into Toastmasters International and enter the information that they completed a level, because otherwise it'll never show up for their DCP.
Exactly. You do have to put the actual education award in Club Central so that it goes to the member's profile and shows up on the DCP. We won't get there tonight, but eventually we'll cover that. But that's a good point to bring up as often as we can, because I think there's still some officers that don't understand that.
And Lori, thank you for saying that we're not going to cover that because actually I have a separate session for managing Club Central, because a lot of people, if you give them the information too early and then later on it might be forgotten. Right now we're focusing on Basecamp, and then later in the year we will have sessions on Club Central.
All right, I might sneak it in another time though. You never know.
Yeah, that would be great. Since there aren't that many members, well, hopefully there aren't that many members who don't like having their levels submitted immediately. But there are members who would rather not submit their levels right immediately, and they
Right.
have that prerogative because that is on the email from Toastmasters. When they email the Basecamp manager, it says check with the member if the member wants it submitted. It's right there. I think the second to the last paragraph.
Right, and then you have the issue with people in dual clubs. You might have one club officer approve the level completion, but you want to give it to another club for the DCP.
Absolutely.
That can get tricky.
Yes. Okay, I think Roy has asked. It says Roy, but actually, I don't know your name, but that she'd already asked the question.
My name's Carolyn. I'm just
Carolyn.
using my husband's.
There you are, Carolyn. Hello. And Lori, I'm not seeing any other questions or any other raised hands. So feel free to resume if you want to.
Okay, finding members. Now I showed you one way to find your club members in here by starting to type the name in the search box over on the right. But here's another thing you can do. Maybe you want to look at a list of members. Maybe you don't remember how to spell the name, or you want to see if a member is in here. Type the word club. Now, if you really want to, you can type in the whole club number, including all the leading zeros. But who has time for that, right? So I discovered a shortcut. Type the word club, because even if club isn't in your club name, it's here. So type the word club, press enter, and then you'll get a search box again, and click on people. Right now it's showing a search because there's tutorials about club, but when you click on people, voila, you see a listing of your club members. Whoops, I'm getting excited and ahead of myself. But keep in mind that it's only going to show people here who have a path and who are, if they're dual members, if they're logged in under your club. So if you're looking for someone and if you don't see them here, don't panic. It's probably one of your dual members who's logged into one of their other clubs. Or maybe it's someone you thought they had a path, but maybe they haven't gotten it yet. Notice though, well, I guess you can't tell because I've hidden the last names. It doesn't show it alphabetical. I don't know why it doesn't show it alphabetical. If I had created it, it would. Nor is there a way to alphabetize it. Now we have 19 people in this club, but it's counting, the Basecamp manager has its own profile. So that's why it shows 20. It's going to show one more than you think. But I can click on any name here and go to that person's profile and look at their path, just like I did with my path. Also, maybe you have a club that has 30, 40, 50 members or more, and you don't want to scroll through and find everything. Once you've got your list, you could start typing here, and if that person's listed, it'll come up here and you can just click on their name. But here's another way, just in case 2 ways isn't enough. I'm back at my transcript, and I don't know if you noticed before, there's a little icon that says View Team. If you see that, you can click on it, and this is what happens. The list comes up on the left of all the people that have paths and that are logged into your club. And you can click on them from here to go to their profile. So there's different ways that you can bring up club members to look at their individual progress. And you'll see that icon in different spots. It's not everywhere you might think it is, but you do see it in different places. We've looked at the transcript, but there's a couple, and we've looked at their Basecamp profile. There's a couple of other things that you can look at for members in Basecamp. We're at the profile where you see my little kitty, and we've got the menu up here. We've looked at the transcript. But let's click on feedback, and you can see if someone has left that member feedback and has marked it available either for everyone to see or for Basecamp managers to see. You might not see the feedback, or you won't see it if it's marked just for that person to see. But the best part is, you probably won't necessarily want to look at their feedback, but as Basecamp manager, you could leave them feedback by typing here. You could leave them a file if you wanted to. And the member won't receive a notification, but they'll be able to see that when they go to their feedback section in their Basecamp. The ePortfolio. If you click on the ePortfolio up here, you go to their ePortfolio section. Why do you want to go there? You can look at their badges. Now, even though their documents is here, as Basecamp manager, you can't upload documents for a member here in their ePortfolio. Only they can do that, and only the member can see the documents that they've stored there. You can take a look at their badges. If you click on badges, and you see here that I've received several badges, my path activated badge, and then my level completion badges for levels 1 and 2. Why do you want to look at the badge? One helpful tip to help your members moving along once they finish that icebreaker is you want to see whether they've completed the icebreaker. One way you can tell if they've completed the icebreaker is look for that activated badge. That's when that drops into a member's profile, once the icebreaker project has been marked complete in Basecamp. Now, what's nice about this, even though I'm logged in as a Basecamp manager, if I'm just a regular member, not a Basecamp manager, and I'm in regular Basecamp, I can look up a member, a fellow club member, go to their ePortfolio and see which badges they have. If I'm mentoring someone, if they've given their icebreaker, I always check a couple weeks later to see if they've got that activated path badge. If they don't, that means they might need help in figuring out how to close out that project so it's marked complete so that they can see the other 2 projects in level 1. So it's really important to look for that activated path badge because it helps you know whether they're able to progress or if they're stuck and they might need some help. Now, one more thing I'm going to cover. We're getting close to the top of the hour. I covered getting the completion certificate, but I thought since I kind of wandered through, I would do a quick review because this is something that hopefully you'll be doing a lot as your people progress through pathways. So I'm going to review how to get so you can print out a level completion certificate for your members. We're at the Basecamp Manager homepage. Just logged in. And you look for the person that you want to look for the completion certificate for. Start typing it in, either click the name or press enter and click the name down here. You're at the Basecamp profile and you want to go to the transcript. Find the path. If they have more than one path, click Open Curriculum. Now you see the overview page. Click on the particular level that you want to get the certificate for, and then click on View Certificate. It'll open up. You can print it and or email it and give it to your member. But I wanted to make sure that those steps were clear, because that may be the most common thing that you do in Basecamp Manager. Hopefully you'll be printing out lots and lots of certificates for your members. And although I have more, we're almost at 11 o'clock my time. So I'm going to end it here and ask for final questions, if that's okay, Michelle.
Sure, sure. In fact, you read my mind. And you might want to take off the slide so we can all see each other.
Okay, I was going to give my...
Oh, you had like a summary slide? It's just, we have
just for
more than one screen. Oh, there you are.
Right. But you can email me if you have any questions at this email address, and I have resources at this email address, lots of resources. And I will stop sharing.
And you will also, I'm sure, type those the email address in the chat box so people can save it from there. Okay. Wow. I mean, I seriously realized that, you know, when I had this session scheduled, I was looking forward to helping others, but I gained a lot from this session too. Thank you so much. So we have a few minutes before we wrap up. Does anybody have a question, a comment, or a clarification? Oh, we have Jing tonight. Okay, I see that we have some regulars, and then we also have several who are here for the first time, which sounds great.
I have a question.
Go right
My
ahead.
name's Marianne. I was just wondering if you receive notifications when your members like get an accomplishment you would want to recognize. Do you have to go in and hunt for that in each member's profile, or do you get notifications of that?
If you're, hopefully you're the base, are you the VPE of the club?
I'm the president, but we're just getting started.
Okay. When a member submits the level completion request, it goes to not necessarily the Basecamp managers, it goes to whatever email address you have for your club in Club Central. That's where the notification goes of the level completion request.
Okay, so just watch for it in that email and then we'll know where people are.
Watch for that, and different clubs are doing different things to keep an idea of where members are. You should have a pretty good idea of when someone is getting close. You could do other recognition besides the official certificate as well, because recognition is always a good thing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Do you tell that you completed like an icebreaker or a speech? You tell them, or they see that you did it because they were at the meeting or something?
Well, you complete the project, although Basecamp doesn't know whether you actually gave the speech. It only knows whether you went through the material and did everything and completed those assessments. But some clubs use an online agenda so they can keep track. If I'm VPE and I missed a couple of meetings, I might not know you gave a speech if I wasn't there.
Okay.
But if the agendas are kept up to date, then I would know whether you did them. You'll, of course, have your evaluation forms if there's any questions. Some clubs do other ways of keeping progress. At one of my clubs, we have an online Google spreadsheet, and people go in and update their speeches so that way, as a club, we can see where people are, and it helps us encourage each other too, because we can say, hey, you only have one more speech to finish that level. Come on, sign up. There's an opening. So it helps us be accountable to each other, as well as keep an eye on where everyone is and encourage each other.
And Lori, just a quick point, which both Trish and I have responded to. Kristen was clarifying, just to be sure, there's no feedback notification.
Right,
And the
no.
answer is no. It's
Right,
not
no,
like Facebook.
right. No. Maybe someday, who knows?
Yeah, there's a lot of improvement. For those who've started quite some time ago, we've seen a lot of improvements. So we have about 3 more minutes left. So any final short question or comment or point? Okay, if there's none, then I would like to invite everyone to unmute yourselves so that you can give our presenter, Lori, a resounding round of applause. Let's give a big hand. You were amazing, Lori. I mean, looks like now you have a...
shoulder ahead.
Yeah. And for next week, what we have, it's still going to be base camp, but this is going to be his first time to present. I have seen, however, his presentation on the District 73 pathways, what they call that, pathways, I forgot what it's called, but it's a pathways website created by Carol McCulloch. It was Carol who suggested that I invite Kajitan Barreto. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Kajitan Barreto. His nickname is Kaji. Most of you who are regulars on the Pathways Forum would have seen him responding, answering, sharing information. Well, he will be next week's presenter all the way from, I believe, Abu Dhabi or India or wherever he might be, because he travels within that area. The topic will be base camp tips, and this is going to be a two-part event. Next week will be base camp tips part 1, and then the week after, on August 20, we will bring back Lori to do base camp tips part 2, because there's just so much information, as you've already seen, for base camp. So with only a minute to the hour, I guess we will adjourn to Toastmasters meeting. We will end this session. Remember, this is Tuesday Talks and Tips. It is a weekly episodic learning series. It will always be posted. The recordings will be posted on the Pathways Discussion Forum. The links to the next week's session will also be posted in the Pathways Discussion Forum. And recently, I've kind of created a way so that people not get confused. The announcement will be in blue, as you've been seeing it in blue, and then the YouTube video links will be in burgundy, so that you won't be sharing the, you know which one to click. So remember, blue will be the event announcement, burgundy, same message, but burgundy will be where the YouTube link will be. So on that, I would like to end the recording, and if anybody wants to hang around, you're very welcome. Let me end the recording. Oops. Want to stop the recording? Yes. Oh, okay. I ended the recording on the cloud. Apparently, the backup is still going on. So let me end the backup as well.